very much. Well, I already told you he is the chairman of Terra. I did not tell you yet that he was director in the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, and he was also coordinating lead author of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that shared the Nobel Prize in 2007 with Al Gore. So we have a Nobel Prize in our table. It's really something we are all very honored. We have to say here that Sunil Prakash was really the person that managed to bring him. Thank you so much, Sunil, for this wonderful help. And he also received a Climate Protection Award from the United States, and he received several prizes for his projects. And although of course he is not the ambassador of India, but he is an Indian citizen, a very well-respected Indian citizen, and so we are absolutely delighted to have the opportunity of hearing an important voice from India in this important context. Please, now the floor is yours.
Bonjour, namaste, good afternoon. Very delighted to be here, particularly with the Member of Parliament, who was so sensitive about his accents. But I would like to assure you that we, majority of Indians here, we understood your presentation exceedingly well, because we are used to so many accents in India, starting from north to south, that we can understand any English accent of any nationality in this world, and including English Texas accent.
Which is quite difficult.
Yes. But more than that, to start my presentation, I liked your accent on connection between economics and global warming, and your accent, which you mentioned in the beginning, about a small step approach. And I feel that what these organizers have done, South Asia Democratic Forum, along with the other partners, is something amazing, that they have come out of COP21 premises, holding a conference here outside, which is a symbolic, and trying not to get involved in nitty-gritties, but trying to take a stock of the situation from 1992 onwards, that going back to RIO and see whether we can do some corrections on the way. Because after all, after 23 years, you cannot go in the same way as we were going before, and try to find new solutions with the old approach. And I feel the organizers need congratulations for this subject. I don't think any organizer within a COP21 premises would have taken this approach of saying that, let's look at it differently. Whether these negotiations which are going on, can they be done in a different way? And I think this is what exactly the concept paper of SADF, which came for the first time, attracted my attention, saying that, can we look at the whole climate change issue in a different way? So I would like to thank Paulo. I also would like to thank Sunil Prasad for suggesting my name over here. I'm not a stranger to EICC, having taken part in a number of debates which you have organized. So let me start by taking this, what could be the alternate approach to address the climate change? Well, I'm not a diplomat. I come from the private sector, and then in United Nations, almost 20 years of experience in both. And the way I have a right to talk on environmental diplomacy, I think it is well earned, because when I started my work in United Nations, just before that, I was an industry advisor to the government of India to negotiate yet another agreement, which was a precursor to the climate change, which was a Montreal Protocol. and it was one of the most successful agreement today, to this date. And I was a global leader in building the capacity and technology transfer to the developing countries on that from United Nations Environment Program. And then I started working on climate change, where also I took part in the negotiations, but from United Nations side, not from the developing countries or any country side. And we know that it is, up till now, it has been a stark failure. So I have a distinction of working on environmental diplomacy, which was the most successful, and most utter failure. So I think I probably have earned a thinking about whether we can have an alternate approach to make a failure as a success. So let me start by taking you back to the 14 June 1992, which the organizers want all of us to do. That was a day when RIO conference ended in Brazil. And I'm very happy that the colleague from Brazil is sitting next to me. I'm taking him back to 1992, what we did at that time. And that was a sort of a beginning, as earlier presenters have stated, of thinking in a different way on how the business, how the consumers, how the families, how the individuals can work, the governments can work to reach us to the state where we call it a sustainable development for the human well-beings. So it was a beginning, and it was also the end of old thinking before 1992, and we probably can now see whether it is we are still at the end or we are still at the beginning. If anyone is asked what is the most important innovations of 20th century, we have these probably things in mind. We can start with internet, we can start with the mobile phone, TV, cameras, the way we used to take the pictures before, or the aviation industry. For me, I think the multilateralism, which was set in 1940, 1945 by United Nations, is the most important discovery and innovation, which gave us an instrument and a platform to negotiate, to think collectively, and try to find the useful solutions to the global problems. And I think that multilateralism, all of us have a responsibility, not only for the diplomats, but even outside, not only member of parliaments, but every citizen, the business, have this, they have the responsibility to preserve it, that kind of a heritage. I call it a humanity's heritage of multilateralism. And that multilateralism has three approaches. And why I'm explaining that, I will come to it because they are closely related to what we are discussing in COP21 today. The precautionary approach. There are now very few people left who are doubting the science of climate change, but there are. And I think most of people believe now that even if science is to a certain extent uncertain, I think the benefit it will give by taking action against the climate change, they will far outweigh the cost of inaction. So let's take a precaution and start acting, even if the science is not 100% right. Second thing is, I think way back in 1992, the Agenda 21 very clearly stated that polluter has to pay. And I think we do it. I don't think we needed the RIO declaration to say that. We didn't require 800 pages of Agenda 21 to say that. I think we do it in everyday life. We pay to our municipality for disposing of the garbage because we pollute it, so we pay for that. And I think that is a principle that was applied in a global environmental agreement as well. And the next is common but differentiated responsibility. And I don't want to go into it because that is a topic all of you are aware, and this is presently at this moment being discussed with a heated arguments to what extent that could be applied in a flexible way. So from 1992 started this multilateralism with environmental diplomacy with three principles which I explained. And one of the first successes we got was the CFCs, which was under the Montreal Protocol. Chlorofluorocarbons were successfully phased out. Today we are sitting here mainly because of the success of Montreal Protocol, because otherwise the ultraviolet rays would have straightway come, destroyed all the biodiversity, all the life supporting systems, and even the human beings. Today, the CFCs have disappeared, and our chemistry books have to change, but they don't have to mention the CFCs anymore. But at the same time, this is what happened. That the carbon dioxide emissions have increased. And that is because of totally different phenomena. That is, many even politicians and one of the presidents of USA have described it as our addiction to the carbon, our addiction to the oil and the coal and natural gas. And instead of and same three principles of environmental diplomacy were employed over the last 23 years for coming to the legally binding agreement which started in Kyoto, but it did not work. And there are so many reasons and so many volumes have been written why the Montreal Protocol was successful and why the Kyoto Protocol was not successful. There are many reasons. This is not a place to go through that, but trying to find in the changed world whether we can have an alternate approach to what is happening now. Why the Kyoto Protocol is not working is a great tragedy. That probably shows one of the reasons why it did not work. When the Greece asked for the bailout, it was agreed after a long discussions, but with penalty clauses. It was a biting agreement. If they would have crossed it, if they had not followed it, if they would not have breached it, if they would have breached it, which they did at one point of time, I think the whole European Parliament rose to their feet and tried to accuse the Greece, saying that you did not meet the target which you gave, the promises that you gave during the earlier bailout. You probably have watched those scenarios, what happened in a European Parliament. It was a miserable scenarios, and the Greece was caught because they did not meet the promise. We don't see such things in a Kyoto Protocol meetings. We don't see those who walked out from the Kyoto Protocol. There are some rich countries who just walked out, saying that no, and they walked out after 20 years. Some of the countries did not meet the target. Some did, and we didn't have a method of appreciating and giving them awards or incentives and giving them a Nobel Prizes. We didn't have those methods. We didn't have punishments, we didn't have incentives. And we kept on doing the same thing for 23 years. And this is what Einstein said. He defined the insanity. He said doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. COP21 is doing exactly the same thing. I've been watching them for last 1 week, and unless we have a leadership, unless we have a stewardship to make us think out of box, maybe some of the organizers of this small meeting need to be in COP21 to say that, look, we need to look at it in a different way. So what is that different way? You may be wondering that I'm only all describing that, and do I have a solution in my bag? Probably I don't. But I have approaches. And that approach starts from exactly what the member of parliament who is present with us started telling us. And I'm just picking up on that, saying that my presentation does include it. And that is a small step approach. And let's see how it's going to work. I was in Silicon Valley just in July. And if anyone has visited Silicon Valley and interacted with those IT technologists, there are the three words which come often in their dialogue. Number one is startups. Number two is disruptive innovation. And number three is billions, not only dollars, but billions of data. Because everything based on now data. You need to have that kind of a data to disrupt your disruptive innovation. And I feel that today we need here a disruptive diplomacy. What is that? A simple example, that communities, there is a tremendous awareness. And I hope I'm not taking up the points from my Chinese colleague sitting at the far end of this dais, who had clearly said during our small brief introduction that small communities are taking a big actions. The awareness as compared to what happened in Copenhagen is a different level. And you see the results of those communities. And here is the village in Germany. I'm just taking an example. There are many other examples, including in India and China, which is, I hope my pronunciation is correct, it's a Wildpolstree. They have the solar panels on each and every houses, and they produce 350% more electricity with these solar panels, more than what they require. They sell it, they get the money, and they have become rich. And probably we now need to tell the individuals, those who are not doing it, get rich by using renewable energy. We don't have to tell them, get rich for the climate change. Get rich to reduce your carbon dioxide emission. What the farmer will understand it. He's not bothered about climate change. He says that every day I am facing a climate change and my crop is getting affected. What you have to tell him is that use this to become economically well. And I think that is a message we need to give and encourage these small communities, those who are taking small steps. This is exact, the real picture of that. And I'm coming to the end of my presentation with some kind of a shocking remarks. I'm making it as a sort of provocative. I don't know how many of you read Pope Francis' encyclical. Is one of the brilliant discourse that is put down on a paper. And I felt that G77 in China, who is arguing there just now in COP21, should have taken Pope as their leader. Because he said exactly what developing countries are saying. He's telling that rich world needs to take their responsibility, morality, the ethics, the carbon space that they occupy. And all this about the taxes, carbon taxes. They're talking about the market mechanisms, the clean development mechanism and carbon trading and emission trading. If at all we go in that way, we have the same wine in a different bottle. And we need to think whether each individual and each family can think in a different way to take the role in solving this climate change problem. He had 246 paragraphs in his encyclical, and he did a wonderful job. So wonderful that people, as usual, like Pope's sermons, which he gives in his seat in Italy, have started forgetting it. But I feel that he lacked one particular paragraph at the end. There is a 247th paragraph, which he should have said, let's make a beginning. Let's put on each and every church solar panels. And let the church get further rich by selling it. Or utilize that money to give it to the poor, which church normally is known to do it. For giving it to the poverty-stricken people. And I know this particular church in France, in south of France, which I have taken this photograph, has these solar panels. And I feel that these kind of small steps, they are coming without any legally binding agreement in any of these COP meetings. And people are taking their own agreements, their own family agreements. And this will probably need to be further promoted. And we need now the bailout strategy the way we had with Greece. That we need to see that CO2 is not the only culprit. There are other gases. We have nitrous oxide, we have hydrofluorocarbons, we have methane, we have PFCs. And I think those forgotten 50 need also to be taken on the record in order to start seeing whether we can do a better job. And again, I'm afraid that I'm not taking out the points from my Chinese colleague, that today people are thinking about the issue of climate change not in terms of emission curves. Everybody is aware of emission curves. They're going up and up. They're going up like a hockey stick, the longer part of the hockey stick. But we have to see the climate change in terms of air pollutions, the health of your children's children, how it is going to get affected. And I think that will turn the things and start taking initiatives. So today, on 14 December 2015, it has not yet come, but we will have something come out of COP21. And I wish what comes out is not legally binding agreement. Maybe people are struggling for that. But an agreement which inspires consumers, the families, the business to take action. They are all ready. They are all heated up. They know the benefits of it. And what United Nations should do in a COP meetings is only to encourage them, discourage them for not taking action. Award the one who is doing better. Keep the track, keep monitoring, collect data, put it in a whole thing, show it to the world who is lagging behind. And this is like a classroom. We do it every day for our children. In a classroom, there is no legally binding things. We just encourage a child to do better. And this is what is probably is needed, and probably job will get done. Probably they can try for it. Thank you very much.